There's a format I've seen over and over on YouTube. Someone decides to learn a language in 7 days. They document every session, every struggle, every embarrassing attempt at pronunciation, and by day 7, they're sitting across from a native speaker, stumbling through a conversation, and the comments are full of people saying that they want to try this too. It's good content. The problem is that it isn't instruction. When you watch a 7-day language challenge, you're watching someone do a project. It's the same as watching someone build something elaborate from scratch. You're entertained, you're impressed, but you're not really learning how to do it yourself. The tools they're using, the hours they're putting in, the specific way they're structuring each day, none of that gets transferred to you in a way that you can actually replicate. The difference with language challenges is that it seems like it should be replicable. You don't need special equipment, you don't need a workshop, you just need an app and some time. So people watch, feel inspired, and then try to copy it. And they quit in week 2 when reality doesn't match what they saw on the screen. That's the trap, and nobody making those videos is addressing it. Most challenge videos follow the same structure. Day 1 is picking the language and downloading the app. Days 2 through 5 are grammar lessons, vocabulary drills, maybe a tutor session, and day 6 is panic. Day 7 is a conversation with native speaker. That goes better than expected, followed by a conclusion. I'm going to keep studying. And then nothing. No day 8, no explanation of what comes next, no honest account of whether 3 hours of daily study is something a normal person can sustain. The conclusion is always the same. I made progress. I'll keep going, which tells the viewer absolutely nothing about how to actually keep going. Here's what most people are left with after watching one of these videos. They know that someone cramming for 7 days can hold a basic conversation. They know it's possible, but they also know that school didn't work for them. And this looks a lot like school, just faster and more stressful. So, if anything, they leave feeling like language learning is even more out of reach than before. Someone talented did it in a week with 3 hours a day, and they can barely find 30 minutes. I'd say that the goal is wrong. So the bigger problem isn't the format, it's the endpoint. Every challenge video frames conversation with a native speaker as the goal. That's what you're building toward. And it's certainly the glamorous thing. That's the thing you put on camera on day 7 to prove that it worked. But conversation is a production skill. You're generating language on the spot, responding in real time, managing vocabulary and grammar and pronunciation all at once. That's the hardest thing you can do in a new language. And it's also not what most people actually want from language learning. At least not at first. Definitely later though. What most people want is to understand things. To watch a show in another language and actually follow it. To read something and not need to translate every sentence. That's comprehension. And comprehension has to come before production. When you jump straight to conversation, you're skipping the entire middle section. You're going from knowing almost nothing to trying to output language in real time. It is progress, but I'd say it's not the right kind. And it doesn't teach you anything about how to build actual comprehension over time. The real first milestone shouldn't be I can talk to someone. It should be I can consume content I actually enjoy in this language. That's the point where language learning stops feeling like studying and starts feeling like something you do anyway. So the sprint model fails most people. If you genuinely have a week with extra time and you want to accelerate the founding phase, a 7-day sprint is possible. Learning 250 words in 7 days means around 40 new words per day after the first day of setup. That's hard. It's not sustainable, but it's doable. The problem is that most people watching challenge videos don't have that kind of time, and they're not being told that's what it actually requires. They see someone make dramatic progress and assume there's a shortcut they're missing. There isn't. The creator just compressed 2 months of work into 7 days by studying for hours every single day. And even if you do the sprint, you pay a cost. Because vocabulary learned at that pace, it doesn't stick as well. You haven't had enough repetition, and the base that you're building is more fragile than it would be if you'd spent the time to do this if you'd spread the same work across 2 months at 5 words a day. So you're trading retention for speed, and nobody's being honest about that trade-off. Day one isn't downloading an app and starting grammar drills. Day one is two things. First, decide what you want to do with the language. What content do you want to be able to consume? A specific manga series, a specific show, football, commentary, whatever it is, name it, because that decision shapes everything. Second, start learning the words you actually need. I say this time and time again, 200 high-frequency words that appear across almost any context in the language, plus 50 words specific to whatever content you want to consume. That's your foundation. Everything you learn is pulling you directly towards something you can actually use. At 5 words a day, you're done in 50 to 60 days. If you sprint, you're done in a week. Either way, once you have those words, the method changes completely. Day 8, which would be after the 1 week challenge, is you looking at your real schedule. Not the schedule you force yourself to keep during the sprint, but your actual life, and finding the gaps. The commute, the 30 minutes before bed, the time you'd normally spend watching something for entertainment, those are your study windows. And what you're doing during those windows isn't studying anymore. It's consuming content you actually enjoy in your target language. 1 or 2 episodes of a show you already know, a manga you've already read, now in the target language. You pick content you're familiar with, so the story carries you through the parts you don't fully understand yet. And you stop looking everything up. You let context do the work. You keep going even when you hit words you don't know. Because that's how comprehension actually builds. Not through translation, but through exposure. That's it. That's day 8, and day 30, and day 90. The method doesn't change. It just gets more comfortable. I don't want to suggest these videos have no value, because they do something genuinely useful, which is normalizing the experience of talking to native speakers. Most people are scared of that. The fear of embarrassing yourself, of making mistakes, of not being understood, it stops a lot of people from ever trying. And challenge videos show that native speakers are almost universally kind about it. They appreciate the effort, they meet you where you are, and watching someone stumble through a conversation and survive it with a smile on both sides is actually useful information. The problem is that most people watching aren't ready for that yet. They're not being told that. So they either try to push it to that point at the expense of actually building comprehension, or they feel like failures because they can't do what someone on screen did after 7 days of cramming. So here's the version I'd make. If I were making a challenge video, it would look like a 7-day challenge. From the outside, it would be the same title, same daily footage, same progression from knowing nothing to being able to use the language. But at the end, I'd show you what actually went through what actually happened if I did this correctly. Because it would be something that looked like 7 days, but I'd spread it over 2 months of normal, sustainable sessions. 5 words a day, content consumption replacing study time once the foundation was built, and no 3-hour daily sessions. There would be no need for a burnout, just a slow, consistent process that doesn't take anything away from the rest of your life. The point wouldn't be that challenge creators are faking it. The point would be that you have no idea what the actual effort behind a language challenge looks like, and that a more honest version of that challenge is available to you right now without having to rearrange your life to do it. So here's what to do instead. If you watched one of these videos and felt inspired, that's the right response. The inspiration is real. Format just doesn't give you anything actionable to do with it. So here's what's actionable. Pick the language, pick the content that you actually want to consume, and find 200 high frequency words. There's a free list in the description if you want that one, and add 50 words from your specific interest. Learn them at 5 a day, and when you have them, switch to the content you already enjoy in your target language at whatever pace fits into your actual life. You don't need to do it in 7 days. You don't need 3 hours a day or a challenge format. You just need the right foundation and something worth consuming at the end of it. The challenge videos show you that the progress is possible, and this is how you actually make it happen.